Hey everyone, welcome back. Look, today we're going to start talking about some of those repairs and stuff that you get sent from your shop. What's the viability in them? I mean, you can't really know, right? I mean, unless you had like some experience like I have or other people do, you kind of just got, I mean, that's got to be a real tough feeling, right? When you get this estimate and you see all these things that are supposedly wrong with the car, man, do you not do it? And you end up being on the side of the road in a bad part of town at a time of night when you'd probably really not rather be there? Or do you wait till next time? So let's get into it. Next time. So this one, I'm going to do more of these in the future. And I'm hoping to kind of give you some idea of when you get sent that laundry list, what are some of the things you can kind of put off and the reasons why. So this is just a little tidbit of some of the things that I see a lot of recommendations coming down for. So my drive to do this channel, it was because I was getting worn down, whether it be from customers that I thought had agendas. They'd come in and just don't know how to treat other people. They came in with that mindset like, that guarded, you're about to screw me, so you're not my friend. I don't want to even be nice to you. But the main thing that drove me was I just get sick and tired of if there is a kind of an idea of what shops are, I see why. I can't sit here and argue against that. So the reason I did this channel was to kind of start biting into that and kind of clawing and fighting back to help you guys understand what's going on, behind the scenes. Obviously, you're going to call and say, how come this is so expensive? What is your labor rate? Where do you get your parts from? How come that part's more expensive? I can get it online for $20 and you're charging me $500. All those videos I have, and there's going to be a lot more made, but just suffice to say that when it comes to things like this, where you're sent this laundry list of things that we just happen to notice while you're in for your check engine light, it ticks me off. I get so frustrated. I can't tell you. I get so frustrated when I see these things pop up on my screen. And in the shop, we can only be so truthful with you, right? Because in today's AI, our phone calls are recorded, they're graded, and things like that, and they're constantly listening to phone calls. So how truthful can I be with you over the phone, right? Hey, Miss Jones, look, they recommended control arms. These guys are crooks. That guy, he has a wedding coming up. He's trying to really save up some money for the wedding, so everything's bad on cars that he's seeing. I can't say that, and so it comes down to how truthful can I be without being at the unemployment office looking for a job. I mean, in the end, we're basically forced to send these digital vehicle inspections to you. And there's some software systems out there, Autotext, OctoRocket. There's all these different ones that are being pushed right now, similar to that 3-call system, where they beat you to death and try to get you to do it no matter what. They don't care. They've got systems in place. There's a lot of pressure to sell a lot of what's on that digital vehicle inspection. They have something called conversion metrics that they're looking at. Out of these 20 items, you only sold one? Yeah. Well, your sales advisor skills are weak, I guess. We need to send you some training, first step, second step. And that's, and shops already have a reputation, right, of trying to take advantage of older people, females. I got news for you. There's a lot of males out there that don't know squat about cars. Granted, you shouldn't have to, right? I mean, if you're a lawyer, I mean, you know the law up and down, okay? If you're a dental hygienist, you know teeth up and down, cleaning them. Why should you know anything about cars? But just like at a lawyer's office or a dentist's office, I walk into there just as dumb, just as ignorant, because not dumb, but ignorant to what you're telling me. I mean, there's that level of trust that I just have to, all right, you say I got 3 cavities, I gotta get them taken care of today, go for it, you're a lawyer and you say that I got a case and you can get me $100,000 based off this egregious thing that happened to me, and it only cost me $20,000, I guess let's go for it, you know? So there is that helplessness everywhere, okay? I mean, heck, I'm honest with you. I get that same kind of helpless feeling when I'm sitting there and the person taking my order at Taco Bell or McDonald's, they seem to be having a bad day, and I might have got a little smart with them on the intercom through the drive-thru, and I'm wondering if, and so I get up there at that window and I'm like, "Hi, hey, are you okay? Oh, how you doing?" I try to be all as friendly as I can, because please don't put nothing in my food. Don't drop it on the ground. I mean, I'm not gonna know. There's that level of trust. The cost of a hamburger meal, you know, versus the cost of some repairs on cars, big difference, obviously. So the level of trust, kind of that thing gets heightened, you know. I trust McDonald's to not put onions on my quarter pounder. I get home, there's onions. Do I go back up there? Is it worth it, you know? But when I tell you need control arms, okay, some big dollar item on a car, and you're just relying on me to tell you the truth, there's a lot of trust that goes there, and you really don't know if it's right or wrong. So I've got some examples put together for you here. We're gonna switch over to that screen. I'm gonna talk you through it, show you pictures. I'm gonna do more of these in the future on some things that they talk about, a lot of what they say you need. These repairs here, a couple of them not so much, but the control arms, those kinds of things, shocks and struts, you know, those are big dollar items, especially on today's cars. Cars like Mercedes, BMW, even some GMs, you know, where they have like a high-end ride system on it, can be terribly expensive. And yes, unfortunately, I don't know where they're making their parts at, but Audi, GM, those struts and shocks fail relatively quickly, just outside of warranty, wouldn't you know? Now at these shops, they do have levels of technicians, so some of the things we're gonna see in these DVIs could be, you could write it off as just a general service guy being a green dude. Maybe somebody, when he was being trained, educated him, this is what he's supposed to say if he sees something like this. So I'm not saying it's all nefarious. Man, if you're going to employ somebody to be making decisions on whether or not a part is needed on a customer's car, you better make sure they're trained. And if they're coming up with these repetitive, kind of janky recommendations, you better retrain them. Now, again, we talked about some of the other videos I have, flag hours versus you know, getting paid by the hour, like being on some kind of salary type system. That's going to influence a lot of these recommendations, because if Christmas is coming up and you got 6 kids at home, guess what? You're going to get recommended a lot, because the only way I can afford Christmas for my little bambinos is I'm going to need to make a lot of recommendations and get a lot of repairs going on in this place quick. Now, when you're at the dealership, don't be deceived by the whole factory trained technicians and stuff like that. That is not the case. I'm sorry. I hate to break your bubble, but if you've been taking your car to the dealership because you feel like they've got factory trained technicians there, I know for a fact at dealerships, many of them, they will hire in a tech, or they'll hire in a general service guy. They will work with him to teach him how to do some things. Now, we're talking about changing oil, doing flushes and things like that. That's not factory trained. That's just learning how to do it on the vehicles they service. When I'm talking about factory trained is most often once a technician or a general service guy has been there for a while, months, they might then say, you know what, this guy looks like he's gonna work out. Let's send him to the first module of training, okay? And I mean, we're talking basics. They gotta get them through the basics. And then it's not so much that they require them to, some shops do, some shops don't, is ASE certified technicians, right? So there's tests, there's modules of systems tests that a tech can go and take a course on and get ASE certified. But in the end, those ASE certifications, I mean, the tests, do you gotta know stuff? Yes, I'm not trying to knock ASE that much, but when you come out of there, I don't know if you're that much better. You know, you do study for them things, right? It's not like you really know it going in. They can give you a study guide and you can take the test 2 or 3 times, you know, until you pass it. Some of the technicians will be factory trained to some level, but then it's almost always going to be by experience. How many times have I seen this particular thing happen? And then the whole recalls and campaigns throw all that out the window, because you might not ever seen something come in that's a problem, and you got a recall that addresses it. So you got to go in there and get educated on that. So factory trained technicians, it's kind of a misnomer. I can tell you, most of those guys you pull up in the Quick Lube at your dealership, they ain't factory trained. Okay, and some of these DVIs, exude that. Okay, so let's get into some examples. Again, this isn't exhaustive. I'm going to do some more of these, but it's focusing on just a couple of things. One of the more ones that I don't like seeing are the control arm recommendations, the struts and shocks recommendations, and I'm going to show you why. So let's get into that, and I'll catch you on the backside.
All right, guys, so what we're going to do first is, as I go through these pictures, I'm going to be showing you what I'm talking about. Here's some visual aids and things. First off, some of the things I'm going to talk about, one of the more important ones, the one that's going to cost you a lot of money if you don't actually need it. It's called control arms. Okay, so control arms are basically, some of them look like wishbones. This one here is more of like an arm with a little offset here. But typically, if we're looking at your car, on this end here is where your tire is at. Here is where your frame is at. And so the control arm attaches basically your tire assembly, okay, to the frame of the car. So when one of these lets go or breaks or fails in a catastrophic way, well, guess what? It's a catastrophic moment. So I'm not trying to put anyone at ease and make you feel like you shouldn't do some repairs that are recommended for you. I don't want you to think that, but what I'm going to do is go through a bunch of these pictures that they just might send you, and I'm going to give you some guidance on when you see these things. I mean, if you don't know what you're looking at, then how are you going to be able to, make a good judgment call? You're just going by what they're telling you. And I'm going to show you not only the pictures, but some of the comments. But this picture right here, so typically, where it joins to the frame, not all these control arms are the same. Like I said, there's some that looks like a horseshoe. Okay, so there's only two different, in other words, the way it looks is different. However, most time it's going to have 3 connection points. So this is a bushing, it's rubber, polyurethane, and in this particular arm, this would slide over here, and then this would go into a bracket onto the frame of the car. This would slide into here on this side, and there'd be a bolt that goes through it that slides into to a recess on the frame. And then this is your ball joint. Now we're looking at it from the top. The ball joint basically is a globe with a stud sticking up out of it with a rubber boot surrounding it, and there's grease in there typically, and it goes up in this hole here. Okay, so 3 connection points. That's just what I'm trying to impress on you. Now here's some pictures of kind of some guidance on it, because when you're looking at these things, you see all these little like ripples right here, and I'll zoom in. Now this is a blurry picture, and these aren't the actual pictures I'm going to show you. I'm showing you real world, real life pictures, but you can see like right here, there's a crack, okay, and there's like just a small fissure with some like little bitty cuts in it. Now always keep in mind, when they send you these pictures, they're pictures of your car up being supported by the rack, and your wheels are dangling. So that whole assembly, this assembly is heavy. They call it the knee assembly, and as it's hanging down here, it's going to artificially stretch these bushings to where any imperfection in them, you're going to get a real bird's eye view of it, like right here, and it's going to look much worse than what it really is. Okay, so over here you have this is metal surrounded by this rubber. Now this rubber was part of this part right here, and it's completely broken away. This is a bad deal right here. This is, this completely failed. So this would be one instance where you definitely wanted to get it changed out, obviously, because you're gonna, in cases like this one though, you're gonna hear some thunking, popping when you're going over bumps and things like that. And but this probably, I would suspect, was probably one of those where it let go from the frame, and the guy was sitting on the side of the road with his tire spilling into the front or away from the car. This one here, the completely torn away from collar. Yes, again, see that big crack? Okay, so here's another big crack. This is about to get to this. Okay, so both of these are good calls. This is definitely time to do it. This one, you should go up there and give the service advisor a bitching out for trying to sell you something like this. Now, they will send you pictures trying to get you to buy this stuff, and I'll show you some of their comments. Now here, this starting to tear away from the collar. So here's the arm, right? And if you see this little ring right here, most times these days, dealerships and independent shops are replacing the entire control arm. It is much easier because otherwise you got to take the arm off, press the bushing out, press the new bushing in, install the arm. It's much more cost effective, labor effective to just go ahead and replace the whole arm. And that way, you know, in that other picture I was showing you, if you have just this bushing that's bad and yet these two, this ball joint and this bushing here have yet to fail, well, guess what? These are as old as this one is. So do you go through the expense of having the arm removed to replace these things and not do these others? Yeah, that's one of the times I'd guide you to go ahead and do the whole arm. But in this case here, with this starting to tear away from the collar, I'm not worried about this either. Lord knows how much longer this. Now this is not a tear. That's just the way the rubber is molded when they put it on this metal bushing. So, but you can see this little bitty tear here. No, I'm not worried about that at all. Now here, if we zoom in on this one, do you see the discoloration here? See how this look like it's been exposed to the elements and yet this looks relatively supple? Well, look what's happening. They got this car up in the air and this arm with all this weight on it. This is your axle or CV axle. This is your sway bar, okay, and here's your control arm. And this is your frame of your car that the control arm sits in. Well, they've got this entire knee assembly dangling here, exposing this rubber that never sees the light of day if it wasn't for the fact that this heavy weight is now pulling down and opening up this arm. It would be like the dentist taking both his four fingers of one hand and put it on your bottom teeth, four fingers of the other hand and put them on your upper teeth, and like pulling your mouth apart to get a better look in there. It's not necessary, but you can see right here there's a small tear there. Is it time to go ahead and spend $2,000 on control arms? No. Now, the way I've decided to do this, now what you're looking at here, this is the actual report that you'll get sent. They call it the digital visual inspection. And so what it's intended to do is to go over the car, look at all the things, air filter, shock, struts, see if there's any leaks, show that to you and things like that. And then they'll put a comment here. Now, remember we were talking about in one of the other videos where you never know what level of technician you have looking at your car or working on your car. So you don't know if this guy has just been hired 2 weeks ago and he really don't know squat about the car, or if he's a seasoned general service guy. So these comments coupled with the pictures, I'm going to show you some that are 100% viable and some that are a little questionable. So as we go through these, I'll let you know. So on this one here, he says the lowers are aged. Now, they don't go in a lot of comments and stuff. You know, think about it, this guy's holding an iPad and he has to thumb the comments into it. Gets tedious. He's not going to write a paragraph, so he just basically does these little kind of secretive comments. So here he says the lowers aged. That means in this section here, the suspension, the control arms, upper, lower, he's saying the lower control arms are aged. Now, what does that mean? Aged. Does it mean worn out? Well, I would suspect if it was worn out, he could have took the extra time to put the words worn out, cracking, failing, whatever the case may be, but he just types lowers aged. So let's go look. Yeah, they're aged all right. Yeah, they look like the forearm of a 70-year-old man, his skin, right? So this is what upsets me, and this is what drives me to do this type of stuff, because again, best case scenario for control arm replacements on most any car is well over $1,200, $1,500, $2,000. It can get up there. So me as a service advisor sees this, and I'm mandated to send this to you and show this to you. Now, a good service advisor would say, "Hey, Miss Jones, see those pictures, and I'll coach you on it. Let you know." But see all these cracks. This is think how thick this rubber bushing is, and a good example is the forearm I just mentioned. Is just underneath that skin. Is anything up underneath there looking like that? No, it's just the surface of this rubber is started to dry and it's started to crack. Rubber, when it's brand new, is supple, has a little bit of moisture in it, if you want to call it that. But this is I would go home and shoot myself if I tried selling someone a control arm off of this. Our next one, hoses are spongy. Are they? Are they spongy? So not many people know when you're talking about upper and lower radiator hoses, how do you know they're bad? Okay, back in the day, maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it was kind of like a rite of passage for summer, right? I mean, you go into the automotive repair station, your hoses, your belts and hoses, you check them, especially if you're going on a trip, because sure enough, man, you get on that long trip, 2-3 hours of sustained driving, that rubber gets hot, it gets soft, and there you are sitting on the side of the freeway, right there in the middle of Arizona somewhere, where the next gas station is 150 miles away, and some buck-tooth family pulls up next to you with cross eyes, and next thing you know, you're in their house getting cut to pieces. The hoses are spongy. So today's hoses, belts, look at what's happened to the timing belt. Back when timing belts first became a thing with Lexus and Honda, your intervals for changing timing belts were about every 60,000 miles. They're in a confined area. There's a lot of heat behind there. And so if they fail on a lot of the engines on a timing belt, then you are almost always going to have some level of engine damage. So you needed to stay up on that one for sure. And there was a reason for that. Those belts, they just weren't that strong. Well, over time, the rubber manufacturing, they started to put Kevlar into the rubber, which made them last a lot longer. And I'm telling you, in the example I'm giving you here, hoses are spongy. The only way you really can tell if a hose is bad or not is if it's swollen, okay, and you can clearly see that. It's best to check it when the engine's warm, okay? You just grab the hose and you squeeze it. If it feels super soft, yeah, change it. But if it feels super soft, it's probably, got some swelling on it, like a balloon that's been blown up too big. Or if you grab them and you squeeze it and they're crunchy, that means the inside wall of that hose is cracked up and it's weak from the inside out. Or if you try to squeeze it and it's rock hard. Yeah, all those are instances of when you want to change your hoses out. But again, like I said, due to Kevlar impregnation on today's belts and hoses, I'm sorry, you no longer need belts and hoses at 80,000 miles. It's just not a thing. I mean, I've seen cars with belts with 120, 140,000 miles on them. It's just they go that long these days. So there is some evidence and there's some visual things on belts in particular that you can look for. We're going to look at that example here in just a moment. Both one that needs it, one that don't. So hoses are spongy, huh? All right, let's take a look at this. Like I said, you can't so much tell from just looking at it, but me doing this all these years, I'm sorry. That hose looks perfectly fine to me. Now, I didn't squeeze it, but I bet you the tech didn't either. That's just some jargon he put on there to justify changing hoses out. They will typically go by miles on these hoses. They're almost encouraged to by the ownership is to, and on shocks and struts as well. They'll just go by time or mileage. I'm sorry, if you're not having thunkety thunk 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 as you're driving over bumps, the struts are probably okay. If you're not having feathered tires or the tires aren't wearing weird, the struts are probably okay. Now you've seen it, I've seen it. You've seen the car going down the freeway, a few lanes over, a few car lengths up. Looks like he's floating on air. He's like He's like in one of these bouncy houses. Yeah, that fool needs some shocks and struts. But because that thing's just bouncing off the springs of the car. The shocks aren't even doing any kind of jouncing or rebound, limitations. So, but these hoses, just by visually looking at it, I'd have to have squeezed it to tell you 100%, but I'm telling you, those hoses look perfectly fine. I pulled this one here just to show you. Most of you from dads and friends showing you or trying to give you some idea of when a tire's bad. You take a penny, which good luck on that, because they're stopped making them now. We're going to find some other testing method. But so you take a penny and you turn it upside down, you put good old Abe Lincoln's head into the groove of the tire. Generally 2/32 of an inch, okay? A tire is considered worn out. You can see the tech logged this one in at 3/32. This one here is at 5, and these two down here are 8. Now, new tires, it varies, but they can come with 10, 11, 32 of an inch tread depth. So this one, yeah, man, it's time. Typically, would you want to buy tires in pairs? You could. This one's close enough to justify it. But if you're pinching pennies, this is the only one you really, really want to think about getting done. Now, if you have an all-wheel drive car, like a Subaru or something like that, these tires, believe it or not, if you just change this one tire and these other ones aren't very close to this, you might need to put all 4 on, because the wheel speed sensors, they sense how fast each wheel is spinning. And if the circumference of this tire is smaller to a good degree than these other ones, then when you change that tire, the wheel speed is going to register that this tire's turning much slower than this one or this one, and it'll cause all kinds of problems. It might even hurt your differential inside the car. So that's the drawback to all-wheel drive cars. I've had many a Subaru owners have a blowout on a tire. Their tires, all of them were at 5/32. So we're going to put a brand new 10, 11, 32 tire on there. No, you can't do it. You have to buy all 4. And so that sucks. But anyway, coaching on tires, if they send you this graph, it goes just green, yellow, red, pay attention to the red, buy as you need to. Again, if you say, oh, I've always heard it's bad if you buy one good tire and leave the other. No, it's not. This tire has effective traction, effective, grip and such down to its wear point. That's basically how they're designed. All right, so this next one, leaking grease. Oh my gosh, leaking grease. All right, folks, so this is your ball joint, right? We saw that picture in that graphic over there. This is the knuckle. This is what is basically attached to your hub, which is attached to your wheel. And this is your outer tie rod. And this is your ball joint for your outer tie rod. Okay, so there's a joint in here with a post that sticks up, that threaded post. Folks, if you get sent a picture like this, as I said before, if you don't have any kind of slack, any kind of vibration in your steering, any kind of thunkety thunk 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 as you're going over bumps or making turns, do not replace your tie rod off of this. Okay, quickly, inside here, brand new, this boot is filled with grease, and over time that hydrocarbon touching the inside face of this rubber wears it down, and of course the movement and the articulation of this joint where these creases are at, sooner or later those creases are going to crack and that grease is going to leak out of there. Now, does that joint in here need grease? Yes, it does. Okay, so just flat out, they wouldn't put it in there if they didn't need it. But what happens when some of that grease leaks out? Is all the grease leaked out? Is there no grease in there now? Wrong. There is some grease inside there. Now, this isn't a high temperature point here. I mean, it needs grease to kind of articulate, right? This is like, say, a golf ball sitting in a cup, kind of. It needs grease to articulate, but there's not a whole lot of movement here. No, not an egregious amount of movement. And so there is still some grease left inside there. Even if it was bone dry, okay, that ball in that cup inside there, it's going to wear out eventually. Eventually it'll go metal to metal and it'll wear on itself, and then you'll start having the little play in the steering, maybe some thunking. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be truthful with you. If you get sent a picture like this, it looks much worse than it really is. Okay? Again, the key thing that you're looking for is, do I have any play in my steering? Do I feel like on one side, do I feel like a wobble when I'm steering, or is there any noises when I'm steering? Is there any kind of going over bumps, anything like that? That's what we're talking about, okay? Because long before that would happen, okay, this is going to be in that condition. How long? Hey, roll the dice. It ends up being, it's going to go when it wants to go, and it's going to give you some indication 99% of the time that it's about to go out aggressively. I mean, I had a Saturn that had a similar situation, worse than this actually. You could actually see the ball through here, and dry as a bone. That thing has not given me a lick of trouble yet. So I'm just telling you. Again, I don't want you to put you at a false sense of ease. These things, you know, if you start hearing noises and some weird feels and steering, get in there and get it taken care of, okay? But I'm telling you right now, at this point, I'd quickly pass over that quicker than anything. I wouldn't even entertain it. Here's another picture of it. This one, you know, and what's happening here is some of this is just kind of picture being spritzed out. And spritz, you know, it's just slowly but surely over the miles and years getting spritzed out and on this joint. This is road dirt that crawls up on here, dust that crawls up here and attaches itself. It looks worse than what it really is. But these guys, you know, I don't know if it's from a desire to make some hours or what, but I don't feel good about sharing these things with my customers because it just does not need to be replaced. And look, I'm not even going to stress you out about it. Passenger side axle seal is beginning to leak. That sounds serious. Shoot, you better do something about that. The passenger side axle seal, well, the axle is poked into the side of the transmission. So what is leaking out? It's not axle grease in this case, it's transmission fluid. Well, the lower the transmission fluid gets, the hotter the transmission fluid is. The hotter the transmission fluid is, the more chance your transmission is going to fail. We better get that taken care of right away. Let's go look at this leak. So, there's some terms in our business. One of them's called seeping. Okay, this is a seepage leak. You see a little bit of moisture, but do you see any drips forming? Like say there's a drop waiting to drip off right here. Is there a drop waiting to drip off right here? Do you see oil coming out and pulling up in this little recess right here? No, no, and no. So this is something where I would tell my customer, hey, we got a little seepage there. I'm telling you now so that in the event you leave here and go on a trip and you have a flat tire and you end up in someone else's garage other than mine, and they try to play a game with you and tell you, oh, ma'am, you see, ma'am, your axle seal's leaking, ma'am. We better get that. Look at this picture. Oh. All right, so that's why I would tell you. And I'd tell you, look, we're going to keep an eye on that for the next oil services and stuff that comes in. We'll see it again. We'll note it again. And then if it starts getting to the point where it's got some oil drippage off here, another thing you'd want to do, and it'd be part of your oil service anyways, check the transmission fluid level. There's not much that has leaked out from here at all. So, you know, just checking your transmission fluid level, keeping it topped off, no worries. Shocks and struts. So this is a strut. The difference between a strut and a shock is the shock, you're going to have a spring, whether it's a leaf spring or in like this one, a coil spring. On the shock type system, you're going to have that leaf spring or coil spring elsewhere. It's not going to be part of or joined to the shock. In this case here, the shock, quote unquote, is right there. It's hiding behind this rubber dust bellows, okay? And it goes right, see right here, the body, right here, this is the bottom portion of the shock. However, when they blended these two together, when they put the shock together with the spring, typically a coil spring, obviously, they call it a McPherson strut. And so it's now one piece. The note on this one, I think, was, well, there is no note. Oh, I know why I showed it. Because you see how this dust boot is like dry, okay? And then right here, from here down, and you can see a little bit right here, and then look right here and here. So this shock is blown out. So what happens is inside this tube, there is oil and gas, okay, pressurized gas, and that's what helps the shock perform. So that you can see this oil right here has leaked out of the body of the strut and is pulling up inside this cup. Now this cup has holes in it, reliefs, right? And so some of that fluid's coming out and dripping right there. Now, is the shock dead right now? Is the strut completely failed? Yes, to a degree. There's a lot of oil in these things, and like I said, whenever these things are plumb done, it's over. You're going to hear as you go into, say you go into a pothole where this thing's asked to suddenly extend out into that pothole, and then as soon as it hits the other side of the pothole to come back out, this thing compresses back in. So you just think as you're going down the road, out in, 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 you're gonna, once this thing goes completely dead and is completely worn out, you're gonna hear some thunking as that's happening and stuff like that. The other concern when something like this has happened is, and you can even see some of the oil here, see how you see a little bit of drips in here where it's been squished out. So this shock is dead. You know, it's not any good. It's not doing anything really. It can, depending if this is front or back, I would suspect it's in the front. It can actually not only affect how you're braking, like how far it takes you to come to a stop, as the weight of the vehicle nosedives down. These shocks kind of help with that. If that other left side shock is in good shape and yet this one's dead, when you hit your brakes, not only does the weight transfer to the front, but it's going to dive down further on this right side, possibly causing you to steer that way as you're braking. So this would be a good time to replace this strut. Sadly, you don't replace them in singles, you replace them in pairs, and so that can be kind of pricey. 121,000 miles on this one. OE recommended. OE, original equipment. So what's he saying here? He's saying basically that since it's the original equipment on the car, he's recommending you change it. There's nothing wrong with it. Why would I change it? So again, I remember when Monroe, a Monroe rep came by, they came in and they said, are you letting your customers know the viable life of our shocks and struts? What is it? That's 80,000 miles. Really? Yeah, 80,000 miles. It's time to buy new shocks and struts. Well, who's telling me that? It's the person selling me shocks and struts. Of course, it's going to justify getting them replaced sooner than later. So here, typically, this is a shock, right? And we talked about what a strut is versus a shock. Do you see the coil spring over here? It's put on the car in a different location than the actual. If this was a strut, then that spring would be encircling the strut all the way up. Okay, so it's off by itself over here. But again, at 120,000 miles, I'll just tell you right now, the fact that it's a GM strut or shock, them things fell pretty quick. However, I don't see any indication why we should be replacing this. This right here is like a dust cover, so don't pay that no mind right there. If you take this shock off, you'll see this body, and then you'll see like a polished rod coming out of the center of this body. That's the shock. Okay, this is just the dust cover. Cracking. All right, what do they mean by cracking? Well, let's go see what they're talking about. Ah, yes, the belt. Yep, that's the serpentine belt. And is it cracking? Heck yeah, it's cracking. Look at that. See, now these are the ribs of the belt, and these ribs, this is a 4-rib belt. So when you have cracks that go the direction like this, now you have some pretty aggressive cracks here. You have some lighter cracking here. Okay. That when your belt looks like a dry riverbed, yeah, it's time to change it for sure. This was a good call. Play. Is it time to play? Are we going to the sandbox, or what are we going to play? All right, so The tech does himself and us no favors by taking blurry pictures and just pointing it at the control arm bushing. Hey, another control arm bushing. Now, if he says it has play, that means it's worn out to the point now where I start to have some concern about it. However, I'll be honest with you, with a better picture like this one, I'm going to question that. I'm going to go out there and say, show me the play. Because I want to see this joint rocking in here. If he can't show me that, sorry, Charlie. You're going to have to find some other way to make your paycheck this week. It's just not going to happen. I don't like it. I make these guys show me the play. Because again, now if this was a $40, $50 part, man, okay, fine. It's got play. But dude, these control arms, after the alignment's done, can cost upwards of $1,500, $2,000 more on a European car. So give me a break. 89,000 miles. Let's see. So the car has 89,000 miles on it. His recommendation for this next part is due to miles. Well, let's see what he's recommending. The belt. Remember we were talking about Kevlar impregnation? 89,000 miles, and we just looked at that other example of the belt. What do you think about this one? Do you see any cracking? Well, it's got 89,000 miles on it, so why don't we just change it due to miles? No. Now, this is the underside of the belt. You can see the ribs that the ribs of the pulleys go into. This right here, if you didn't know, was the other side of the belt, the opposite side, the flat side. It doesn't look dry. It doesn't look worn out. No, it is not time to do a belt. Sorry. Left front outer tie rod boot. Torn. That boot's torn, baby. Yep, it's torn. Let's replace it. Because you know you have that tie rod car show coming up where everybody gets mirrors under their car and they get their tie rods inspected to see who's got the most beautiful tie rod. Dude, again, like I said, these tears mean nothing to me. I don't care if there was grease outside here. It means nothing. Is there play? Is this joint wore out? Is there play when it's articulated? If it's not, then the answer's no. Rear shocks are leaking. Oh, look, electric. Now, in some cars, especially GM's I'm just going to say it, is the witch of suspensions on cars. They have like 15 different rides and it's ridiculous, and they don't share it with you when you buy the car. All you know is this thing rides like it's riding on a cloud of air. Well, when you go to replace them, which can be as early as 40,000 miles on these things, ridiculous. So they have some rides called there's air shocks, okay, that literally air. It fills a bladder back there, gives you a nice air ride. And then they have like an electric type. It's called Magna Ride, where through the use of magnetization and things like that, it helps control the ride and adjust kind of on the fly sort of thing. Well, rear shocks are leaking, electric. Well, I got a problem with both these statements. That, my friend, is an air shock. Okay? I don't see any leakage. Now, if he's meaning it's leaking air, then this thing would be sitting down on the ground. In other words, this bladder, and they do over time, will develop like that dry riverbed look like that belt had earlier, and air will seep out of here so that when you park the car for the night, you go inside, you come out the next day, whatever, because the car's off, right? And that's the reason it happens. The car is off. These shocks will sag down, so you come out and you all of a sudden look like you're a lowrider on one side. As soon as you turn your car on, the pump energizes, and that pump airs that shock back up. Well, if this was leaking, then we'd be talking about something else. It certainly isn't electric. Okay, so again, depends on the service, the general service guy you got. I don't know why he would put that on there. Front links leaking. Well, what is a front link? Well, the service advisor, a good one, is going to help you understand that comment. So let's take a look at these front links. So a sway bar link is something. You see this bar right here? That's a sway bar. The sway bar link attaches it typically to the strut on the car. All right. And so what it's designed to do is, back in the 60s, 70s, these big boats, these big cars, heavy cars, wide cars, when you turn to, say, a right-hand turn, the right front of the car wanted to lift off the ground. They were so heavy, the body roll was so bad. So they designed something called a sway bar. So that sway bar it twists, and when the weight is put on the opposite side of the vehicle, this bar twists and it helps keep traction on that right side. Well, in later years, when they went to struts instead of shocks on cars, they had to find a way to kind of keep this great idea of this sway bar and tie it into the new suspension system that it had, and that's what they did. They used a sway bar link. So on the opposite end of this link is a similar body. Now remember, I was telling you, that rubber boot, if it's busted and you got some grease coming out of it, so what? That may be like that for 60, 80,000 more miles. I'm telling you, until you start hearing rattling as you're driving down the road, like a rattling or a ball in a paint can, until you start hearing that, there's no need to do anything about this. I'm just telling you. Upper control arm bushings are cracked. Replacement is recommended. This is a small picture. Let me get you the big picture. So because there's cracks, replacement is recommended. There's no play. There's just cracks. Now, on the opposite side of this crack, let's say this crack only goes down 1/64th of an inch. Do you know how much bushing is left after that? Dude, these guys are dumb or they're just soulless. They wanted you to buy everything so they can have a good life. No need to replace something like this. When you see pictures like this, just move along. Now, in this case, I think this is on the same car, and he's even gone so far as to draw an arrow to it. Okay, now, are these cracks worse? Yes, these cracks are worse. Holy cow, are they worse? Is it time to replace it? What's the key word? Play. If he can articulate play, if I'm hearing some thunking or knocking while I'm turning or going over bumps or anything like that, yeah, it's time to replace it. But if not, no, it's not. Warn slight cracking. See, even he doesn't feel good about recommending it. He needs to put the determining comment on here. Warn slight. It's slight. Just want to let you know about it. Oh yeah, it's slight, all right. There ain't a crack one in that thing. Sorry. You can barely see just a little bit of starting on here, but this belt's got a ways to go. Busted. Movement causing pull. So if I remember this one right, it did have a pull when braking coming in. On this one here, this thing is tired, 100% tired, and I do see a break right here, and it probably disappears and goes down into the bushing. You got some tears and stuff coming away from the metal ring right over here as well, and over here. So I know you guys aren't going to scrutinize these pictures, they send you that much, but I wanted to show you that if this ends up being the case and it looks like this, coupled with a concern, there's a thunking noise, there's a knock noise, there's pulling when I brake, yes, that's time to do it. Leaking grease. We got another grease leaker. Oh no. All right, quick quiz. Do I replace that based off what you're seeing here? And time's up. No, you do not. You do not replace it off of this. Again, this is just whatever lubricating grease is inside this rubber bushing right here, or this rubber boot is coming out, and you're seeing evidence of that. Again, this for as little of this on here, and the hydrocarbon, once it gets into the body of the metal, it'll actually kind of like seep out or kind of like soak into the skin of this arm. And this isn't even wet. It's just dry. It's caked is what it's called. Nowhere near. Again, if you have play, knocking noise, a thunk, any kind of weird feel in your steering, because this is a tie rod, so it would have to do with your steering system, then yes, it's time. But if not, no, driver front strut is starting to leak. All right, so again, this is a strut. You got your body or your shock here. The coil spring is wrapped around the strut or the shock. Now, what is all this? So remember we were talking about there is some oil and some gas inside here. So over time, that oil and gas, that gas will kind of squirt out, and it'll basically, as it squirts out, the air turbulence, the air, as you're driving down the road, the air coming through the body of the car, it's going to take that little mist and kind of just let it coat the body of this thing. And guess what all this is? Like I noted before, this is dust and road dirt. Okay, is it time to spend $1,500, $2,000 on some shocks and struts? I'll wait for your answer. Let me answer for you. No, it is not. Again, and I'm just going to repeat this because repetition works. If you're hearing some thunkety thunk 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 as this thing's negotiating bumps in the road, if you've noticed your tires are wearing oddly, like feathering, or the cupping they call it, then yeah, maybe consider, especially if your tires are low and they're worn out, you're going to get some new tires. You don't want that to happen to the new tires. So yeah, it might be time for some shocks or struts. But just based off this picture, and you're not having these other notes that I mentioned, move right along. Both control arm bushings in the front have a tear and are starting to crack. All right, now look here. There's your crack. There's your tear. And right here. Now, again, like that original picture I was showing you, there's levels of failure, right? From brand new all the way to sitting on the side of the road with your wheel, instead of standing straight up, leaning into the center line of your car. Okay, there's a wide spectrum. Here, again, if it's associated with some odd drivability and stuff like that, that would be my urgency. Okay, yes, the picture, there it is, cracking. Okay, but if I don't have any of those other, if I'm hurting for cash right now, I'm not going to just put something like this off and out of my mind. But I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm not hearing any issues right now. I'm going to keep a close ear on it. Okay, in between now and my next oil service, when I come back in, let's take another look at those. And if some of that other stuff has developed, like some noises or something like that, I may go ahead and pull the trigger on it and get it done. So good to know, but unless coupled with some kind of issue that I'm having, maybe not. Small leaks from where the CV axles go in. Small leak is right, because let me tell you what, this is your CV axle. So this could either be it's hard to tell. To me, it looks more like a differential, but like a rear wheel drive, like say it's an all-wheel drive vehicle. So this is the body, right? And you see how dry and grayed, worn out, just exposure is, dust and dirt. And then you have this difference in color here. You don't see any moisture, do you? You don't see anything wet. This is called seeping. Again, my goal in telling you this is not to scare you. If you do this repair, I'm going to tell you don't do it. Seepage, I tell my customers about seepage because I, again, don't want you to go to a different shop. And two things. One, they snow you and tell you, come on out here and let me show you this. It's been going on for a while, ma'am. Come on out. Now you see this? Oh my gosh. We got, look, I can get you right home. We'll take care of this today. Okay, so that's one reason. But the second reason would be like, if you trusted me and you said, oh my gosh, I just had it over Kurt at the shop and he didn't notice anything. I don't feel like he doesn't have my best interest at heart. He's not checking my car like he should be. No, I am. I saw that and I laughed. The tech took a picture for posterity. Okay, but in this case, he's wrote small leaks from where the CV axles go in. All right, sorry, that's not a leak. That's a seepage, if anything, and that could have happened over 10, 15,000 miles, what you see here. There is no wetness. Do you see any moisture, wetness, glistening? Anything that looks wet, that's dry. So again, you got to be careful. Here we have another control arm. Now here, you can see the crack. Let's go into here. You can see the crack right there. and it goes on around here. You see a little bit of it over here. Again, instances like this, I'm going to need a problem associated with it. Now, and that would be my counseling to you, because I'm required to show you that. Miss Jones, look, you'll see that picture there. You see that little crack right there? Look, I'm not too concerned about that, honestly. I show you this so in case you go somewhere else and someone tries to snow you into buying some control arms, it's not time yet. Have you had any kind of thunking noise, any popping noises that you could tell as you're turning corners, going over potholes, things like that? Have you heard anything like that? Because until you do, we can put that off for another day.
All right, so there you have it. I mean, in the end, there's going to be some things that these guys recommend. Again, I want to caution you. I'm not saying it's done every single time just because they want to try to sell you something you don't actually need. You know, basically, and this is a strong word, rob you. This is like being stuck up, you know. They're using your ignorance against you to make you purchase these things that you don't truly need. I'm not saying that's the case 99% of the time, okay? But I'm going to tell you, there are times, like I said in that example earlier about Christmas presents and stuff, you know, there's times when, you know, if a technician purely goes by what he recommends repairs and puts on a vehicle, you do have that element. You do. In the general service world, like your quick lube places and things like that, I'm going to say, if I had to very illegitimately percentage it, I'm going to say probably a good 70% of what they recommend is going to be based off ignorance or the way that they were taught to recommend it. Okay, hey, you see a little bit of these cracks on here, you recommend control arms. Sorry, you know, that's not that guy's fault, it's whoever taught him. So look, I hope you enjoyed it. I do hope you learned something from it. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comments. I'm not like, I mean, obviously I'm a relatively small channel, right? I mean, I got nothing to do but answer questions in there. So make sure you leave me some questions. If you've had some unique experiences, put them in there. Let's hear them. All right, until next time, thank you for tuning in.